After years of hopes and dreams from fans, things look like they might be changing. Today on the Boss Battle Show, we're going to be taking a look at recent developments in gaming crossplay for Xbox and PlayStation. Hey guys, what's crack-a-lackin'? I am Adam Ronan.
Mr. TJ Combo.
And we are here today to talk about something very exciting.
Crossplay!
Crossplay. What's happening?
So, I would say crossplay is one of those things that I'm surprised we're even talking about. Like, it should already have been, it should just be here, right?
It should be a thing, but yeah. I think it's a product of, we've talked about it before, console wars.
Yep.
And everyone's like, no, you play on my system.
And I think it might be a product of them like, let's finally come together and unite.
Right. So, just recently, Xbox announced that they're opening their platform to be cross-play with PlayStation 4. Now...
And they brought this up because of Rocket League.
Yes.
Yep, Rocket League eventually came out PS4, and then later it came out on Xbox, and they were like, hey, we wouldn't mind if everybody got to play against everyone.
Because why not?
And I was like, whoa, hang on now.
Yeah.
You said that?
It's something we've all thought about for years, and there's cross-play already now with like Xbox and PC, and PlayStation and PC with like Street Fighter 5. So,
but the consoles have never merged.
The consoles have never merged. That's why this is such a big deal.
So let us define crossplay for those of you viewers at home who are wondering what exactly is that.
Let's.
The old school way was if you had an Xbox, you played Xbox games with your Xbox friends, and a PlayStation was PlayStation and PlayStation friends. But now, your Xbox would allow you to play with your PlayStation friends
without what a concept.
Gigantic purchases. Right?
What a concept. And then it really negates the need for like, oh, all my friends have PlayStation, so I'm gonna buy a PlayStation. Now you can buy whatever just pleases your little tickle pickle.
Or does it? Yeah, we'll talk about that later.
Oh. Cross-platform play isn't exactly a new concept with developers. With Xbox One being compatible with Windows 10, you'll see games like Killer Instinct Season 3 jumping into the fray of crossplay. But this is nothing new to Sony. Shuhei Yoshida sat down with Eurogamer to discuss the PlayStation VR and was asked about crossplay with Xbox. And they, of course, had to say they've been doing it for quite a while with PS3 and PS4, and now with PS4 and PC with Street Fighter 5. They've already been testing the waters of crossplay. And now, with Xbox being open to it and PlayStation being open to it, it's up to developers to implement in their games crossplay between the two platforms.
So hearing what Mr. Yoshida just said, right, I think that's really encouraging news because they're trying to go off the past. They have done it previously with PC, and as he mentioned, that's open platform. So anybody's welcome to do anything there. But there are a couple of roadblocks preventing PlayStation and Microsoft from just playing nicely together in the schoolyard right off the bat.
And they say that, like he said, that possibly the easiest thing could be the technical limitations.
Right, and I think it would be.
Yeah, I think it would be too, because there's some of the smartest minds in the world working behind these ecosystems. No big deal. But then you come into the business aspect of like where now you're getting like, you're in my playground. These are my rules. Well, you're in my playground. Oh, these are my rules, and that's where I think it's going to be the difficult.
Right, and of course with the publishers and stuff as well.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to have a lot of different contracts being passed around just so one game can go with one in both systems at the same time.
Exactly.
And if it goes well, that could bode so well for the future in terms of like the larger platform games like Call of Duty, for example.
That would be huge.
Yeah.
And then if you also think back, I think this would be interesting if you think back to some of the games that after like a year or so, there's maybe like a few 100,000 playing on PlayStation, there's like maybe 6,000 playing on Xbox, but if you open it up, then games that are dead after a while have a longer lifespan because you're still finding more and more players to play with.
Right, and I do think that potentially this helps sales, and one key point that I'd like to make after watching Mr. Yoshida's speech there is, let's assume that you have 4 friends and 3 of you have a PlayStation game and 1 of you has like an Xbox. You now all have the ability to buy that same game and join together.
Yeah.
Right, which would be super cool because now you don't have to go spend another $400 and get another system just to play one game with your buddies.
Right.
You guys can join in on those. Which kind of leads me to my next point. We're talking about what some would consider a potential pitfall. I think is actually a gigantic benefit. If you can play your favorite AAA titles on both systems, what would be the reason that I buy one or the other? It's going to be exclusives. These guys are going to have to dump so much money into exclusives so that they can get your money back over to them.
That's so true. That's a good point, Tim.
Everything that you mentioned, but like all of those games that we mentioned in the past, I think they'd have to make a gigantic push to come back.
Oh yeah,
right?
totally.
Crash Bandicoot and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're totally right. The exclusives would be the driving factor to the console wars at this point. But I also think this could lead into another step forward in the end of the console battle, because with things like this, and then maybe possible upgradable consoles that we talked to in the last thing, we're almost just looking at a console PC generation, and with the crossplay, that just adds another step towards that direction, I feel.
One of the only things that you might consider would be just like technical limitations of the systems there are currently that would maybe drive your decision when it came time to purchase. You're like, well, I want the graphical capabilities of the PlayStation 4, or I want the customization of, say, a PC, or maybe even the mouse, because maybe somebody wants to play FPS with a mouse now, so they would go down that road as opposed to maybe an Xbox.
Yeah. Totally.
So I think one potential pitfall of this, and one thing that could potentially be a gigantic negative, is if we look at this like two countries at war, right? And they've been at war for years, and they finally get together to have like those peace treaty talks.
And have like a cup of tea and stuff.
Exactly. If those talks break down, it typically results in like another 10 years of war. Right? So if these guys are like, yeah, let's definitely do crossplay, I think it'd be great for all parties. And for some reason there's a hiccup, they could potentially blame somebody for this.
That's true.
And the reason that we have the PlayStation is because they originally were partnered with Nintendo. So that's a great thing because it didn't go well, and obviously now we've got one of the greatest systems in the world. But if this breaks down, we might see the end of crossplay for years.
That's true. That's a good point, because actually Xbox Live was the first thing really stepping in for consoles to come in, and back in 2004 I think it was when they launched it. And now Xbox has actually become the underdog in terms, because there's more players online for PlayStation. If that partnership or whatever they work out does go south, that could be bad for Xbox Live, because people will be like, well man, the Xbox Live just sucks now. It's not what it used to be. Let's go over to PlayStation. And so there's a lot of possible pitfalls that could happen for if that doesn't work out.
And of course, like the reaction from the community, I think is really good for the most part, because everybody's like, holy cow, I could finally play my buddy who has an Xbox with the game I've already got. And that's super cool. There are going to be some people who are upset about, oh no way, they're faster on PC because they have a mouse and I have a controller or something like that. So they're not going to want to play like a competitive FPS.
Because they might have a equipment-wise advantage.
Right.
Yeah.
And one easy way to fix that is we take one of the most recent cross-play examples, and that's Street Fighter V, which allows you the ability when you go in to do your online search to say, I only want to play against PC, or I only want to play against PS4 players. So if you feel like the connection's not there, or if you feel like there's an equipment disadvantage, you have the ability to rein it back to your little...
Oh yeah, that's a good point. That's a good idea. But that's all on developers.
Exactly, yeah. And that's something that we have to look at what's been done in the past in order to move into the future. So if it's been done very well there, we need to make sure that it's done very well moving forward.
Agreed. So what do you think? Are you stoked?
I couldn't have been any happier.
Yeah.
This felt like the end of a 25-year war for me.
Yeah.
I was so excited to see, and like I said...
Because it's even just between the two of us,
right.
Because we both have both consoles, but you're primarily a PlayStation player and I'm primarily an Xbox player, so it works well within our dynamic. But sometimes Tim will get a game and I'll be like, yeah, but I'm pick that up on Xbox because I like achievements. I get exclusives on PlayStation, but now it wouldn't matter because now we can still play the games together that we want to play.
Exactly.
If the developers allow that to happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't foresee a lot of problems. I think it's going to work out. I think it might be a year or so before we see all the developers really, getting into it and taking hold of that concept. But I foresee it's just a positive thing for the industry.
Right, like I said, I do predict that there'd be more sales if they were able to pull this off.
Yeah.
Because instead of skipping a game altogether, because I'm not on the same console as my friends, I can now purchase that game and join in on the fun.
Yeah.
So that I do think is a good thing. I also think that both companies are going to push very hard for this, and that is just due to just the media is covering this nonstop.
Everyone's
now.
excited about it.
So
It's a huge talking point.
Exactly. And if you have a guy like, Phil Spencer is like, hey, we're open to it. Sony, what are you doing? And Sony's like, well, we've been open to it forever. I'll do it too. You don't want to be the first one to back out of this.
No.
Because if you back out, people are like, oh, boo to you. We're moving all of our money over here now. So I think they're both going to make a huge push. And I think it's really going to be great. I think, like I said, for me, this is the end of, a 20-year war or something like that.
And sometimes it feels to me like that PlayStation is always kind of like that, like, good guy who's just like, I want to make the first move, but I'm going to let them come to me. I'm cool. Mm-hmm. And Xbox was just now starting to reform into a really great company with Phil Spencer's lead, because Don Matrix, who had it before, was just a pile of snot. Yeah. And now Phil Spencer's came in and he's really trying to shape it into something sweet. Yeah. And he's like, and he's a gamer too, so he's like, why not? Why are we doing this?
You have a guy who has a concept of what the community actually wants, and that's what you're going to get back in return. So I think because of those two types of minds meeting in the middle, we're going to get some really good stuff out of this.
Totally, absolutely. But what do you think? As per usual, let us know in the comments below, or
you can
hit us up on the Twitters.
On these Twitters.
Yeah, don't forget to subscribe, because Boss Battle Show, content,
live
videos,
stuff, games, shorts, horror stuff, funny guys, beards.
Beards for sure. Gordy.
Yeah, we gotta free him.
Is he back there?
No.
Cool. Thanks for watching.